councillors. I welcome you all to this meeting of the Cardinia Shire Council and declare the meeting open. I remind all in attendance that this evening we are webcasting this meeting live over the internet on tonight's YouTube page. We will commence the meeting with the following prayer. Almighty God, we humbly request that you bestow your blessings upon this council, direct and prosper our deliberations to the advancement of your glory and to the betterment of the peoples of Cardinia Shire. Amen. The Cardinia Shire Council also acknowledges that we're on the traditional land of the Bunurong and Wurundjeri people, and we pay our respects to their elders past and present. Mr Evans, I believe we have an apology from Councillor Jodie Owen. Thank you. I believe that's the only apology from councillors. Can I have a motion, please, to adopt the minutes of the meeting as listed? I have a mover, Councillor Graham Moore. Seconder, Councillor Carol Ryan. All those in favour? Declared carried. Declarations of interest. Councillors, do we have any declarations of interest? If not, no, we don't. The council conducts its meetings according to the consent agenda. Councillors have advised of the matters for consideration this evening that they wish to discuss or to debate. The remaining items will be adopted without discussion. The items withdrawn for discussion this evening are item number 3, Christmas decorations in townships, withdrawn by Councillor Brown. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. I didn't realise I'd be asked so quickly. Yes, Christmas decorations in township. I move the officer's recommendation that Council invites applications for the provision of Christmas decorations under the existing Community Wellbeing Support Grants program under the Small Change Grants to the maximum of $2,000. The applicants must comply with the relevant risk assessments, the insurance, etc., and also undertake the installation of the decorations. The successful applicant is encouraged to work with their respective trader associations and men's shed where applicable, and a once-only grant round, this time for the month of October, to enable applicants to apply for decorations for the 2018 Christmas period. The total value of the grant is $10,000, that's the cap. So that's 5 towns if they apply for $2,000 each, but if somebody applies for less, some other person may be lucky. So that's what I'm moving, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Graham Moore. Thank you, Councillor Moore. Back to the mover, Councillor Brown. Thank you, Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. I think we all agree, or most of us agree, that the sight of decorations in town at Christmas make Christmas seem a bit more real, particularly with children. As a council, of course, with budgetary constraints, council putting up decorations would be expensive and also, I think, a logistical nightmare. Which towns, what type of decorations, the community input, relevant authority permissions obtained. Then would come the purchase of them, putting them up, taking them down, storing in a safe place for next year, etc., etc. Some shires and cities do the Christmas decorations very well, and when you visit those places you think, well, why not us? Personally, I think we should make the effort. However, we know there are downsides, but the upside is very real. Merry Christmas, peace and goodwill from us to you is the way I look at it. But some of the labels aimed at us are Grinch, Scrooge, couldn't care less. Lots of those labels I've heard, which none of them are true because we do care. It's just that with budgetary constraints and a bit of common sense, we find that we can't afford them and we should not do them. One of our towns last Christmas, under cover of darkness, someone took it upon themselves to drape the trees lining the main street with tinsel. They also displayed Christmas messages on a fence. Anonymous person, People spoke about it. Children were mesmerised by it, by the tinsel glittering in the sun. All of a sudden in that town it was Christmas, and I think that was significant. Just as mysteriously after Christmas, the decorations were all taken down. Nobody knows who did it. I think they do, but nobody knows who did it, but it wouldn't be hard to find out. Just after they were taken down, there was a notice on the public notice board there that if you had any tinsel left over, they would appreciate it if you could drop it off, no address, to be announced, so that they could use it next year. This brings us to the report Christmas decorations in townships. We've decided if there is interest in townships decorating their town, we should help them. So this is what this grant's all about. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Second to speak, Councillor Graham Moore. Thank you, Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Mayor. Well said, Councillor Brown. My sentiments entirely. We as a council do like to support our community in all sorts of events, and I think this is one where we can do. I know a lot of people in Pakenham have brought this subject up quite often about the no Christmas decorations, no atmosphere in the main street of Pakenham, and I can understand why that is. I get involved in the Christmas festivities in Pakenham, and I do it gladly and happily. And I know that the Garfield festival, the Christmas festival, is fantastic, and they have applied in the previous years to go through the normal channels. So this is a great initiative to do this, but it comes with conditions. It's not the sort of thing that we just allow this to happen. We have, as you said, Councillor Brown, we've got $10,000 to apply at $2,000 an application, which is a fair sum of money for Christmas decorations. There are conditions. There are 4 conditions that go with this, which is a traffic management plan may be required on the day. Of course, we've got to be responsible to our traffic as well. A risk assessment will need to be provided by each community group and be approved by the relevant council staff. Vic roads may need to be notified if placing signs or decorations on Vic Road reserves, because that's important. We've got to respect our other parties involved. And permission may be required from a relevant authority such as the utility companies, depending on the proposed locations of these Christmas decorations. So these are all, we've still got to follow the regulations. It's not, we just can't put these things up willy-nilly, if you like, even though we want to stick with the traditional Christmas decorations. So being a one-off this year round in October, as mentioned, and future years, these applicants will have to go through the normal channels and be considered under our small change grants in the future. And I think that's what it needs to be. But to give them a bit of a leg up, if you like, into this, to start off with their decorations for this year coming up, 2018, it'd be great to see the decorations throughout the townships, right throughout Cardinia Shire, and particularly in Pakenham, which lacks a bit of atmosphere around that Christmas time. But thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Do I have any other speakers either for or against the motion? If Councillor Brett Owen. Thank you, Councillor Owen.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, councillors who've spoken on this item. I totally support this this motion. It just gives these community groups a bit of a leg up, as you said, Councillor Moore, some small assistance. Obviously, there's a lot of volunteer work and probably township sort of their own funds. But this will give some sort of incentive to our groups who want to do something around Christmas. I know there's already activities in Cockatoo, Beaconsfield, and they've sort of funded that through their own means. So this provides a bit of an incentive for other groups to do so. So I totally support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Owen. Do I have any other speakers either for or against? Councillor Ryan. Thank you, Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor. I totally support this as well. Providing some of our homeless people that don't have a home and are in the street, seeing Christmas decorations means something really important to them. It means coming together and being part of a family. So I totally am in support of this. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. Do I have any other speakers either for or against the motion? If not, before I move back to the Speaker, I'll have a few things to say about this. Back in 2014, in December, we were quoted on the front of the paper as Grinchtown. In 2016, we were known as No Cheer Here. So I proclaim, if this goes through, we can say the cheer is back in Cardinia Shire, and we aren't Grinchtown anymore. The Grinch can say goodbye for a short while. Also, too, I must say, after talking to many interfaith different groups on the issue of Christmas, I have never heard another faith group actually complain about different celebrations by other faith groups. It's often the people who have absolutely no faith belief at all who complain about all different faiths and their faiths. So when you talk to people from all the different groups, they'll share with you that we mightn't celebrate it for the same reason, but we still celebrate it, being in this country, Christmas time. And we have public holidays like everybody else does, and we enjoy the time off from friends and family, and we believe different things on that day. But equally so, by recognising that Christmas day, they know that other people will respect them for their differences and their different beliefs on their different days. And they have special days just like Christians have special days. And it's part of accepting and recognising other faiths that we try and do this through the interfaith group. That's what we come together to do. We come to recognise and respect other people and their differences. So anyway, I think this will bring... and for a 1-year term, we'll give it a go and we'll see how it goes. But I think it's heading in the right direction, that Council is trying to put some cheer back into Christmas. And I think it's a great initiative and a great report that came back, and I'm going to support this motion. So I will go back to the mover. Thank you, Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. I think that communities need to be aware that whilst there are restrictions and processes and regulations and that have to take place, that we have council officers more than willing to help with those things, and they shouldn't be daunted by those conditions put before them, because they can be overcome. It's not meant in any way to alienate communities one from the other. It's a Christian thing, I understand that, but it's a message of goodwill that I'm concerned about. I'm a bit of a decoration freak at home. I decorate everything, but that's another story. Small story was I decorated the community clock towers at Kuirup. I strung lights from one to the other to the central point, and I was up a extension ladder. My knees started shaking. The ladder started shaking. I couldn't wait to get down quick enough and turned them on, and they looked fantastic until somebody knocked them down with a big stick. So I didn't give up. I put them up again. There's somebody knocked them down again. So I gave up after that. Hopefully that when these are put up and we get the traders involved and the men's shed involved, and I've already spoken to the men's shed and they're quite happy to participate and making cutouts and all the rest of it, but we need somebody from the community, each community, to drive this, to take charge of it and coordinate it. So I commend it to you, councillors, and I hope that you all support it, because I think it's a good thing, and we get that Grinch label off our back to some extent. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. We'll go to a vote. All those in favour? Declared carried. Moving on to item number 5. Appointment of member to Cardinia Access and Inclusion Advisory Committee, withdrawn by Councillor Schilling. Thank you, Councillor Schilling.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move that Dr. David Edwards be appointed as member of the Cardinia Access and Inclusion Advisory Committee, and Bev Linnell be removed as a member.
Thank you, Councillor Schilling. Do I have a seconder to this motion, please? Councillor Brett Owen. Thank you, Councillor Schilling.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Owen, as well, for seconding this item. On Wednesday, the 21st of March, I nominated Dr. Edwards to fill a vacancy caused by the resignation of Bev Linnell from the Access and Inclusion Committee. Not only is Dr. Edwards a tireless volunteer within our community, his credentials are also quite impressive. He holds an extensive background in clinical psychology and has a long working history within our region. I think David Edwards will be an incredibly valuable contributor to this committee, and I do look forward to working with him over the next 12 months on the committee. I must note I also sit with Councillor Brett Owen as well, who's the other council rep on that Access and Inclusion group. I'd also like to take this time to acknowledge Bev for her tireless work on this particular committee. Bev has always been incredibly hardworking and a passionate advocate for disability access and inclusion across Cardinia. And I can say on behalf of the committee that Bev's contribution and expertise will certainly be missed. Just a quick summary, though, of what the Disability and Access Inclusion Committee does across the Shire. It's, in my view, a very important committee which gives Council much needed advice on accessibility on our new and also existing facilities that we have. We also, as a committee, manage small-scale accessibility upgrades across the Shire. And we have to say, whilst building codes are improving, unfortunately, the Shire isn't completely accessible for those living with a disability. And there are certain improvements such as installation of a ramp, a widening of a doorway that makes all the difference. And thanks to this Access and Inclusion Committee, we're starting to see these improvements across the Shire. And it's my goal that in time, council facilities will be accessible 100% of the time to everyone, irrespective of their ability. So I'd just like to thank councillors, and I hope that you can support me tonight in adding Dr. Edwards to this committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Schilling. Seconded to speak. Thank you, Councillor Brett Owen.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Schilling. You spoke really well about the very important role of the Access and Inclusion Committee. I also thank Bev for her time on the committee, and I welcome Dr. David Edwards. This committee continues to play a key role on this council, advisory role to council. We've come a long way since this committee started probably approximately 15 years ago. And Councillor Schilling talks about the upgrades. We started off, I think, by memory, $50,000 to a fund, and over time it's grown and grown. So from 50 to 100, and I think it's now 150. And I'm really pleased about that. These people are a fantastic group of people. They've either got professional expertise in the area of disability and access inclusion, or they're living a life that has an element of disability. And I think that is very vital. And I understand, I've been speaking with officers today, their role will continue to be enhanced, particularly when we plan new buildings. They are going to have a more vital role, more heavier sort of input, which I look forward to. As of July, I think that will be enhanced, and I think that is fantastic. So I commend Councillor Schilling on his words, and I also love being on this committee and the results that we see from it. So I commend the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brett Owen. Do I have any other speakers either for or against the motion? If not, I would like to just say a couple of words again on this issue. I must say, in Australia, I think there's about 1.2 million people registered as having some sort of disability. And in Cardinia Shire, we've had over 5 to 6 families a day moving in for the last 10 years. And in the next 10 to 15 years, we're going to have another 5 to 6 families a day moving in, which means we're going to have so many more people moving in who potentially will have disabilities. It's great to see so many new infrastructure projects having the up-to-date disability services that are needed, and this committee goes right over those different projects and tries to identify any areas that may have been missed in this area. I must say it is a job in itself to try and upgrade our facilities to having access for all, but I know that this committee is on the warpath trying to hunt them down and find them, and as they do, council is responding. And I know extra money's been put into this area since I've been on council. I think it's even doubled the amount of money in our budget dedicated towards this. So I look forward to seeing more and more things done in this space, and I must say that committee is a doing committee, and it does a really good job. So I hope people endorse this. Thank you. Mover to sum up. Thank you, Councillor Schilling.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Owen and Mayor for your comments on this committee. I'd just like to emphasise a comment made by Councillor Owen, and that was around council utilising this committee to its full ability. As new builds do do come on board. It's important that we show these plans to this committee. Not only is it a multidisciplinary team of experts from a range of different service providers, we also have community representatives with lived experience of what it's like to have a disability within our Shire who have to navigate our facilities and our buildings on a daily basis. And the expertise around that table is amazing. So we need to continue to use this committee to make sure we don't make mistakes like we have in the past, blocking community members out of our facilities. I'd also like to thank Marcia, who is our council officer who runs the committee, who does a lot of background work and keeps it together. Marcia is a tireless advocate for disability access within our Shire, and I think that we should all be incredibly proud of the work that Marcia puts in to her job. So thank you very much, and I hope people do support adding David onto the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Schilling. May we go to the vote, please? All those in favour? Declared carried. We'll move on to item number 7. Request for the provision of a footpath along Walford Road, Yakatoon and Jurglund Roads in Beaconsfield Upper. Withdrawn by Councillor Brett Owen. Thank you, Councillor Owen.
Thank you, Mayor. I move the following. That the footpath is listed on Council's footpath priority list, however, is ranked as a low priority and would not be constructed in the foreseeable future. 2, to bring construction forward, affected residents would need to contribute to the construction of the footpath. I move so.
Thank you, Councillor Owen. Do I have a seconder to this motion, please? Councillor Schilling. Thank you, Councillor Schilling. Back to Councillor the mover, Councillor Brett Owen. Thank you, Councillor Owen.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Schilling. I'd like to note that the lead petitioner of this petition is in the gallery, and I acknowledge her presence. Probably about 6 to 8 weeks ago, this resident contacted me about a request for additional footpaths in this area of Upper Beaconsfield. As a result, I received a petition and I tabled that petition at the last council meeting in March, and this report responds to that. Before the petition, this footpath request was not on our priority listing. Council's got I call it a wish list for footpaths of over 300 footpaths in our Shire. We are a huge Shire, as we know, and already on that list there's over 300 future footpaths to be constructed by Council over probably a long period. So before this petition, it wasn't even on that 300 list. As a result of this petition, it is now on the list, and it's in between 100. I think it's just in the hundreds priority list. Residents, we do have challenges as a Shire, budgetary challenges, and I would love to see footpaths everywhere, but we've got budgetary constraints. So each year we have a budget allocation of approximately, I think, 850,000 for new footpaths, whether it's new footpaths or footpaths attached to the pedestrian and bicycle strategy, so over 850, and each year we go through that priority list, and that changes with whether petitions are lodged, township committees put requests in, so they move on a regular basis considering on budget items and where those sit. Today I sat with the engineers and got a better understanding of that footpath list, which is over 300. But I commend the resident for putting the petition. It is now on the list. When our engineers went out there, the engineers did sort of acknowledge that there is a bit of a goat track in that vicinity, so that demonstrates current usage. So it's not just people aren't using it. The engineer also said to me today that they saw on his site inspection, at least a couple of people walking in that area during that inspection. So it just demonstrates there is already a usage need, and that it got rated appropriately in that. So I spoke to the petitioner in the gallery just before the meeting started. I think residents would like to continue dialogue with council to see what their options are, to maybe prioritise that or look at other options of maybe being part of either a footpath scheme or a special charge scheme with a road. But I'm happy to have those conversations with residents in this space. So we do have challenges as a council, and we do what we can with the budget we've got at the moment of 850 thereabouts, 1,000 per year, and we'll continue to build these new footpaths, but it is a challenge to meet every request. So I note that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Owen. Councillor Schilling to speak. Thank you, Councillor Schilling.
Thank you, Mayor. I have nothing further to add.
Do I have any other speakers either for or against the motion? If not, I'll just indulge one more time. Council does acknowledge that there is a need for more footpaths to be built in the Cardinia Shire. Since I've been on council into my 10th year, I know this budget for footpaths has actually more than doubled in that time. So, council has put their money where their mouth is. I know Councillor Owen has always advocated heavily on footpaths, trying to get more footpaths and getting more money put into the budget, but the budget only goes so far. But we do acknowledge it, and we are trying to do something about that by increasing the amount of funding. And it's good that people do raise these issues within the community and bring it to council and to fellow councillors, so that we can acknowledge that and hopefully have it listed and have it prioritised if it isn't already and put on the list. So therefore, you'll at least know that it is there, it is being looked at, and it will be considered as part of the future budget. Anyway, if there's no more speakers, I'll move back to the mover. Thank you, Councillor Owen.
Thank you, Mayor. When we do assess footpaths, we do the assessment on whether it also connects with an existing path network. At the moment, this area does not. It's some distance north of the current network, which is close to the township of Upper Beaconsfield, the town centre type thing. So this doesn't get a priority in this space because it would not link to an existing sort of path network, which is a priority. I do commend once again the petition, people behind the petition. This has now got a public airing. Council's this has been brought to the attention of council, is now on the list, and I'm happy to work with the residents to have further discussions in the future. So I move the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Owen. We'll go to a vote. All those in favour? Declared carried. Moving on to item number 8, transitioning the Cardinia Tourism Advisory Committee to a regional tourism board, withdrawn by Councillor Wilmot. Thank you, Councillor Wilmot.
Thank you. I move that Council endorse the model and process for transitioning the Cardinia Tourism Advisory Committee to an independent regional tourism body.
Thank you, Councillor Wilmot. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Schilling. Back to you, Councillor Wilmot. Thank you.
Thank you. As the delegate on this Cardinia Tourism Advisory Committee, I'm very pleased to be able to speak to this report tonight. The recommendation in the Cardinia Visitation Strategy to transition from an advisory committee of both councils to an independent board is a result of the research done during the development of the strategy, which identified that the terms of reference for the advisory committee were too limiting and wouldn't allow the committee to effectively lead the implementation of the strategy. The purpose of the visitation strategy is to grow and develop the tourism industry within Casey and Cardinia. To do this, it is important that the group leading that implementation of the strategy has the ability to actually do the work required to build that visitation and to create more jobs in the region. The legal advice we received from Maddox was that the most suitable structure for a regional tourism board would be to become an incorporated association registered with Consumer Affairs Victoria. Michelle Carson, a consultant from Influence, has been working with the advisory committee over the recent months to establish the constitution and governance of the board. The board will be skills-based board, up to 9 directors, including 2 council representatives, being 1 from each council. The board will continue to have support from council officers in the administrative role. The inaugural board will be appointed for a term of 12 months, and they will then decide the future tenure of directors. To establish this inaugural board, nominations for directors will be advertised, and nominees will be asked to identify their suitability against the board's skills matrix and the director's position description, which have both been developed. A selection panel comprising of the current chair of the advisory committee, Mr. Chris Buckingham, myself and a representative of Casey Council, which will most likely be Councillor Stapleton as their delegate rep, will assess the applicants, and a summary of the preferred candidates will be submitted to each council for approval prior to being appointed as directors. It's envisaged that this new board will be in place by the beginning of the next financial year, which begins in just over 2 months. So tonight I ask for your support in endorsing the model and process of transitioning the advisory committee to an independent regional tourism board as presented in the report, so that the advertising calling for nominations can begin without delay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wilmot. Seconder to speak. Thank you, Councillor Schilling.
Thank you, Mayor. I support Councillor Wilmot tonight in endorsing this model, and I'd just like to congratulate her and acknowledge her hard work. I do know that a lot of work has gone on behind the scenes to make this happen, and you should be acknowledged for that. The transition to a skills-based board is incredibly important, especially when you recognise the significant revenue which is associated with a strong local tourism. Tourism is a win-win for our community out here in Cardinia. Not only do we see increased local employment opportunities for our residents, we also get to showcase our Shire's greatest natural assets and iconic activities. The $50,000 that Council is allocating to this board, in my opinion, is quite minuscule when you consider the broader benefits, such as already the 2,948 Cardinia residents employed within the sector. And I must say that data is slightly out of date. That was from 2016, so I would only assume that in 2018 that number has increased. Having read the action plan, I do see the benefits in the increased digital footprint and the additional networking to be beneficial in increasing tourism numbers to our Shire. So I look forward to sitting back and seeing the formation of this board and the implementation of our new regional tourism strategy. I'd like to thank once again Councillor Wilmot for the time that you've spent with this strategy, along with the council officers and the members of the existing committee. You have my full support with this strategy. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Schilling. Do I have any other speakers either for or against the motion? If not, I will go back to the mover. Thank you, Councillor Wilmot.
Thank you, Councillor Schilling, for your comments, and I appreciate them very much. In closing, I'd like to thank the current members of the advisory committee. They are all on the advisory committee in a voluntary capacity, and it is a busy committee. This committee meets every second month, but in between times we have many subcommittee meetings as well. So they've really put in, and it's been a great privilege to work with these people. They are a very talented group of people, and I certainly hope that some of them, if not all of them, nominate to become directors of the board moving forward. I would also like to encourage councillors to tap people on the shoulder. If you know people that might have the necessary skills, you've got the skills matrix included in the report, tap them on the shoulder, encourage them to apply. The more people that apply, the greater depth of skill will be able to get onto this board. This report is also going to Casey Council this week for endorsement. So that'll happen tomorrow night. Hopefully it'll come through tonight here, tomorrow night in Casey, and then first thing Wednesday morning we've got a committee meeting to start the ball rolling. So it is really important that we all endorse this tonight so that that process doesn't get held up at any point along the way. We have a very short time frame to work within here, so we need to get the ball moving quickly and steadily. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wilmot. We will go to a vote. All those in favour? Declared carried. Moving on to item number 9, tenders for contract number 17/26 Cardinia Cultural Centre Stage 1 redevelopment and art space. Withdrawn by Councillor Schilling. Thank you, Councillor Schilling.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight I'd like to move that Council award the tender for contract number 17/26 Cardinia Cultural Centre Stage 1 redevelopment and art space to Lloyd Group Proprietary Limited for the contract sum of $7.8 million excluding GST. 2, that advise all tenders accordingly, and 3, affix the common seal to the contract documents.
Thank you, Councillor Schilling. Do I have a second to the motion, please? Councillor Wilmot. Thank you, Councillor Wilmot. Councillor Schilling, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillors, I think we would all have to agree this has been a long time in the making, this cultural centre redevelopment, and I'm excited tonight to be presenting this report to Council, which recommends that we commence stage 1 of the redevelopment, an art space to Lloyd Group Proprietary Limited for the contract sum of just over $7.8 million. Stage 1 of this fantastic project will include a new art space, dance studios, office, workspace, light court, stores and change rooms. It's important to note from the beginning that this development will occur over 3 stages, over several budget cycles, and one of them will include the expansion of the current theatre space as well. I don't think anyone in the room will be shocked when I say the community have well and truly outgrown the Cardinia Cultural Centre. This was also recognised in the 2013 to 2014 Arts and Feasibility Study, which was conducted by the Cardinia Shire. I am of the belief that a vibrant art scene does form part of the fabric that makes a community great. The arts brings culture, cohesion, a sense of understanding to a community, and also gives people a voice, enabling free expression. For a long time now, Cardinia has been left far behind in this space, making it hard for local artists and performers to call Cardinia home. As it currently stands, the Cardinia Cultural Centre, in terms of the current community need, lacks rehearsal space, has inadequate storage space. Also, despite having a gallery room, ironically it's not used as a gallery room, it's used as a multi-purpose room with no curator or annual exhibition program for artwork. So if approved tonight, this redevelopment will set the scene for the creative and performing arts in Cardinia. And by having an art space, our local artists will have the opportunity to exhibit their work. And as spoken about just before, we speak about regional tourism boards, but the reality is it's projects like this which will be vital in attracting visitors to our community, to our Shire. Likewise, by attracting local, national and international acts to Cardinia in the form of our expanded theatre later on down the track, we'll keep money and creativity in our local economy, which will no doubt have widespread effects on our local economy, even if you just look at the surrounding businesses. In terms of cost of this project, as I said earlier, it will cost us just over $7.8 million for stage 1. So that funding is coming from 2 sources. So the first one is our Growing Suburbs Fund, which is a state government based program, and $5.4 million from council. Already this tender is under budget, which is good news for Cardinia moving forward. The design of this redevelopment is impressive, so I'd certainly encourage residents to get in onto our council website and have a look at the development firsthand. I'd like to now hand over to my seconder, Councillor Wilmot, if she would like to say a few words.
Thank you, Councillor Schilling. Councillor Wilmot, thank you.
Thank you, and of course I'd like to say a few words. This is quite exciting actually to get to this point after all this time. The feasibility study done in 2014 recognised that there was a shortage of exhibition space as well as rehearsal space. So in the last 4 years, it's taken us to get to this point. There's been a lot of work done, including advocating for allocations in the budgets, seeking funding from the government sources, as well as working with the architects to develop the plans for this. And I'd like to thank David and Miranda, in particular from Mantrex Architects, who through the early part of this development of this plan worked really well with the Arts and Cultural Advisory Group, and in fact did a tour one afternoon with the councillor reps on the previous council, and we went and explored some both performance spaces and gallery spaces in other municipalities, and it was a valuable exercise to see what sort of spaces can be multi-purpose spaces and used by a number of different groups and community activities. I've just lost my page. It is really good. This process will absolutely provide opportunities, not just increased opportunities for our existing groups, but opportunities for new groups. The rehearsal space will also provide opportunities for dance schools to use that space. So it's a great thing. The gallery will bring in tourism. I know that I often travel all across the state to visit different exhibitions when they're on. And of course you always stop and you have a coffee and maybe a bite of lunch or a scone or whatever. You spend money in the area when you're there, when you shop, when you're visiting these exhibitions. So I think the restaurants and the coffee shops, particularly around that area, are going to thrive with this redevelopment. I note that there will be some inconvenience caused during this construction phase, but we're assured that the staff there will work with the clients that are holding functions to make sure that the facilities are as suitable as possible for their guests, and we'll still be able to maintain some of the shows and so forth in the theatre. So it's very important to be able to look after those guests and those clients as the best we possibly can. So I look forward to this passing tonight and everybody agreeing to award this contract, and the work can then begin as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wilmot. I have other speakers. I have Councillor Brett Owen and then Councillor Moore. Thank you, Councillor Owen.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Schilling and Wilmot, for your comments. I totally support this item, long awaited. The Cultural Centre was built almost 20 years ago, almost, and our Shire has grown massively since, and our art community has grown. It is huge, our art community, and this supports our art community. And I know this has been, it was mentioned when we did the arts and culture policy strategy. This was highlighted as a key priority, and even in our last budget submission process, we received some very supportive comments from the arts community about this item. So I look forward to this upgrade. This upgrade will include upgrade to the toilets. If anyone's been to any major event at the Cultural Centre, particularly the females, there's often long queues, and even the big blokes barbecue. I've never seen a queue for gentlemen before, but on that day, huge queues. So we're going to see additional toilets, and I think this is fantastic. This plan has been perused by the Cardinia Access and Inclusion Committee. They provided their feedback, which I'm really happy about that. We're going to see a larger foyer. At the moment, it can be a bit cluttered with the foyer, so we're going to see a larger foyer. We're going to see a secondary entry point, which I think is really good, with improved drop-off, pick-up of customers or users of the facility, and I think that's really important, particularly with people with a disability. I want to acknowledge current councillors on the Arts and Culture Committee, but also past councillors. I know Councillor Kate Lempriere was a strong supporter of this project, and I think it's important that we do acknowledge past councillors that were involved in this, and I do note that. This will provide a dedicated exhibition space. At the moment, our main exhibition space is the gallery room, and that can be used by other users, so it usually cannot be a dedicated area. So we'll see a dedicated exhibition space, so we can see those touring art exhibitions. And already we've had people from, when I was Mayor last year, we had Scope come out with a fantastic exhibition in relation to their artwork. Also a lady from Queensland, country Queensland, that came out to an exhibition. So with this dedicated space, we'll see some really great touring of art for our residents and also our tourists that come into our Shire. But this will provide a dedicated space for our own artists, which is great. Something they've been looking forward to for a long, long time. So I commend this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Owen. I've had Councillor Moore over here. You wish to speak? Thank you, Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, councillors, for your comments. It's really great to hear this. I'm excited. I actually will say art. Isn't it fantastic to have some art within with some funding to go towards art is fantastic. And I'm sure that previous councillors, as in Councillor Kate Lempriere, was very passionate about this project, and to see it actually come to fruition is just fantastic to see. Being a performer, I've actually performed in that building, and I know what it's like as far as performing arts. With the performing arts, having rehearsal rooms for a starter, just on their own, is enough to support our local thespians who don't have an opportunity to rehearse there. They just got to go and do the show straight off, and it's quite complicated. So to see those sort of things put in place for our people performing arts and the static art, of course, give them a home is really fantastic to see. But I just note I would like to thank the stringent scorecard here that's got the builder. I'm going to focus on the builder, Lloyd Group. The Lloyd Group, who looks like being maybe okayed for this contract. They did the Salandra Community Centre for the Casey Council with $5.3 million. So they've been around a fair bit and are quite a good builder. So it's good to see. And I do note that the architect, Mantrick, has made a comment that gave positive performance and delivery where they worked with them before at Mornington Civic Centre. So they are really highly recommended to do this project, particularly the stage one. I would prefer to have a local builder. They are from Port Melbourne, all the way from Port Melbourne, which is a long way to go. It'd be nice to see a local builder using local materials and local labour to do our projects here. But it's been through the scorecard and they've come up with the goods. They did receive the Master Builders Excellence Award in 2015. So they are a reputable company, and I'm sure they'll do the right thing for us down the track. So it's going to be exciting to see something happening in that cultural centre, because it's a long time coming, and I know I've been waiting a long time myself to see that come to fruition. So bring it on. That's what I say. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Do I have any other speakers either for or against the motion? Councillor Brown. Thank you, Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Mayor, and I support all the other councillors and the words that they've spoken. It seems unbelievable, the resistance to this building some 20 years ago when it was mooted, and I think it's a credit to the councillors of the time that they stuck to their guns and they built it. The original plan was reduced somewhat because of the finances. The theatre was reduced and some other parts of it reduced, and it's good to see it catching up. I think that it's probably one of the best facilities around, viewing wise, I guess. I think the restaurant's pretty good too, and the bar. But it's a credit to Cardinia that community supports something like this. In a lot of areas there, they have these facilities, and they're not used as much as what Cardinia is. As Councillor Moore says, as a thespian, which I'm not, it's ideal for those type of people. And I would just like to think that we might have a bit of a flow on here, because Cooey-Rupp Community Centre could do with a bit of an extension too. However, we're not talking about that, but we will soon. So I commend this, and I reckon it's fantastic. I spoke for this project some 20 odd years ago when I said that I used to go to Warrigal quite regularly to see shows, and now it's just fantastic to be able to see them in my home shire. So I commend this, Mr. Mayor, and thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Do I have any other speakers either for or against the motion? If not, I'll say a few words. I think this $7.8 million investment in the arch is really, really important, and it shows that council is dedicated to funding the arts and getting behind them. Huge money is already spent on sports and recreational facilities in Cardinia Shire with great benefit. It should be equally acknowledged that though some people have different gifts and talents, and in the arts area, I know through my own family personally how some of them aren't sports minded, but they are creatively performers and artistic. And I know they get great satisfaction, and it's an outlet for them to go and enjoy that, just as people do with sport. I must say it is going to expand the options in this space in Cardinia Shire Council, as we have a niche community centre right at this moment that seats about 350 people. And it basically gives so many options for different community groups to have their presentations or shows at the end of the year, whereby if you go down the road, you've probably got, 1,000 people at least you need to have inside a theatre, or you have other school halls where you may have 100 people. So 350 people, a lot of groups do come here and really enjoy being able to seat most of their people and having a full house, which has great benefit for them. I must say, Councillor Moore I've seen perform in the Cardinia Cultural Centre in the past, and I remember one scene when it says "Not Dead Yet," and I think it was on Fiddler on the Roof. Is that correct? Was it that show? But I must say, we do have the privilege of seeing Councillor Moore, Spamlot. We have the privilege in seeing Councillor Moore perform here every week. And he basically has a real passion in this space. And if you've ever seen him MC anything or host any community festivity, he does a wonderful job, and he really should be applauded for that. And I believe one day down the track, when he's no longer involved in council, he'll probably go back and be involved in some community groups again in shows. And I know that he'll really enjoy that. From the time I saw him, he really enjoyed that. And I had it written down, as well as Councillor Owen and Councillor Moore, that Councillor Caitlin Priere, a lover of the arts, and she always reminded us of that. She always lobbied extremely hard in this space, and I know that she would really support the upgrade of the facility, and it should be noted that she has lobbied really hard in this area in the past. So anyway, I support this. I look forward to the first stage and look forward to the future stages, and I look forward to seeing how it goes. Thank you. Going back to the mover instead of me. I think I was the last one to speak. Anyway, I will move back to Councillor Schilling. Thank you, Councillor Schilling.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, councillors, for all your supportive comments. This is an incredibly important project, and I guess looking across the Shire, we could see the Cardinia Cultural Centre as the hub for arts, but I think that it's important that we see arts across the Shire as being important, and we look at Little supporting our artists right across, not just at the cultural centre, which brings me to my closing remarks. The arts is a powerful medium for our residents, and like sport and recreation, as it has been mentioned in councillors' comments, it brings members of the community together and gives people a sense of belonging. As the Mayor pointed out, not everyone in the community is sport-minded, and the creative arts does bring another element to community participation. On the weekend, I went to a local artist exhibit, which was in Berwick. Now, this local artist, Annette Slattery, is from our Shire, and wouldn't it have been great if people like Annette would be able to showcase their art right here in the Shire? Well, once we have a gallery space, that will be able to happen, and we'll be able to enjoy our local artists without them having to move out of the Shire. I'd just like to make the point and emphasise that the Cardinia Cultural Centre will continue to operate throughout the construction period. Even if it does look like a work zone, it's still open for business. They've got a full program operating throughout 2018 with some quite impressive performers who will be there. So keep your eye out for that. Look, I do hope that everyone does support this tender tonight, which will see the Cardinia Cultural Centre transformed into the arts hub that it definitely should be for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Schilling. We'll go to a vote. All those in favour? Declared carried. Moving on now to item number 10, Major Project and Strategies Activity Reports, withdrawn by Councillor Brett Owen. Thank you, Councillor Owen.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the report be noted.
Thank you, Councillor Owen. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Ray Brown. Thank you, Councillor Owen.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Brown. As part of the reporting process to Council, this monthly report provides an update of the current status of major projects and strategies in progress. It includes an update on major projects, capital works, special charge schemes, asset management and strategies current at the time of this report. And I know councillors often like speaking to this report because it talks about, it's a good snapshot of capital works and updates happening in the Shire on a monthly basis. So I know other councillors would like to speak to items, so I've just got a few that I would like to speak to and some questions, if that's okay, Mr Mayor. So Emerald Netball Facility, that's the facility in Pepe's or on Pepe's land. So works are progressing well with earthworks, shaping, cut and fill, drainage, service installation and retaining walls complete. Curb has been completed and civil works are progressing on the remainder of the courts and car park. Vic Roads has approved the design of stage 1A, however approval from service authorities is still outstanding. So the reason why we're building this this netball facility for Emerald and the Hills community is because the current facility is unacceptable, does not meet regulations, safety regulations, and change rooms, etc. So this has been a long-awaited project for our netballers in Emerald and the Hills community. I move to the Officer Recreation Reserve, the Western Oval reconstruction. And I understand that, so we are, as a council, currently next financial year will reconstruct that oval, and I look forward to that. But I encourage our officers, I know there is some experts associated with the Recreation Reserve, and they've got strong views on the type of grass, and so I encourage our officers to really listen to those committee people, community members who have got strong views on types of grass. So I hope we will listen and to their views. I move on to Emerald Hills Hub. The Hills Hub. The Hills Hub construction demolition will commence soon. We're just waiting on electrical services disconnections, which are pending this month to make a start with the demolition work. So I look forward to that happening. At this stage, construction is due to be completed by May 2019 on the Hills Hub. In relation to the Eastern Dandenong Ranges Trail, the majority of the project is now complete. One small section in front of the Cockatoo Primary School is awaiting power authorities to relocate a pole and allow the path to be upgraded at this location, and the approval of the pedestrian crossing on Pakenham Road is still awaiting approval from Vic Road. So it's almost complete. As one of the ward councillors, I've received so much positive feedback about this trail and what it will do for our hills communities and tourists and connecting our communities. So I look forward to that officially opening soon in due course. This report also outlines footpaths, and we had an item earlier on in this meeting that talked about footpaths. So I encourage interested people to have a look at what Council says about the footpath program. There's a question, if you don't mind, Mr Mayor, about Kenilworth Avenue, the Kenilworth Avenue construction. The project is the construction of the first stage of the Kenilworth Avenue extending from Brunt Road to the Princess Highway underpass. The works include a sealed road pavement curb channel on both sides, underground drainage and a concrete path on the south side, and a shared concrete pathway on the north side. So construction commenced many months ago, but works have stopped or ceased. So I'm asking the Acting General Manager of Assets and Services, Mr Ben Wood, in relation to providing council with an update in relation to what's happening on Kenilworth Avenue, please.
Thank you, Councillor Owen. Unfortunately there has been an issue arisen in relation to the construction on Kenilworth Avenue between the developer that is funding that work and the constructor that is doing the construction works. And essentially they're in a contractual dispute around outstanding payments. So we're trying to work with the developer to facilitate a resolution of that issue so that the works can get underway as quickly as possible.
Thank you, Mr Wood. I do hope those discussions, negotiations work out. I understand the developer is doing some really good things in bringing forward the construction, but this sealing of Kenilworth is well and truly needed, and I hope those discussions, negotiations work out and see that construction of that sealed roadway recommence very, very soon. And just finally, the Pakenham Kindergarten redevelopment. What a great project. This kindergarten is one of our oldest kindergartens in our Shire, in Main Street, and to see this redevelopment close to completion is fantastic. Just upgrading this facility for our young people, which will be a new 100-metre squared extension, accommodating a new multi-purpose area, storage room, staff room, amenities and covered outdoor storage space, renovations throughout the remainder of the building, replacement of weatherboards, timber fascia and gutters, and replacement of evaporative cooling with 2 new multi-head air conditioning units. So This project is funded between Council and the Victorian Government, working closely with the Parents Advisory Group for Main Street Kinder, but a great project. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Owen. Do I have any others? Do I have a second? Councillor Ray Brown. Thank you, Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm not going to pick out projects in the report. Mainly what I intend to do is commend the officers and commend the report for the information that it contains for councillors and the public as to what's happening in council, that we're certainly not standing still. There's things going on all around the place. There are some projects there that are going to really make a difference to the communities, and it's good to get an update to see where they're really standing. So that's all I have to say. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Do we have any other speakers? Councillor Graham Moore. Thank you, Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to just reinforce the comment made by Councillor Owen about the Pakenham Kindergarten redevelopment. It is a fantastic thing to see. It's been a long time coming. And I note they are a big supporter of the Yakaboo Festival in the parade. That just happens to be this weekend. That sounds like an advert, I know that, but so it's really good for us to support them as well, as I'm sure they'll be there in the parade on the weekend. But the project I want to point out is the Jolly Road Bridge, the replacement of the Jolly Road Bridge. This bridge was brought up at a meeting recently attended by Councillor Brown and myself about bridges. And it's really great to see this bridge being reinstated. It's got a 10-tonne limit, and that restricts it for CFA trucks to go across this bridge in time. If it's in an area, if you don't know where Jolly Road is or Jolly Road Bridge is, it's in Tonnumbuck. It's the far end or the northern part of the Bunyip area, Bunyip North. And so this bridge, to reinstate it, will give the local residents there some surety down the track when the fire season comes in. They'll be able to have that. And of course, we've got the school buses go on that same bridge as well. And of course, you can't take heavy agricultural machinery over this bridge as well under its present state. So to see it reinstated is a fantastic result for that community. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Do I have any other speakers either for or against the noting of the report? If not, I will say a few words. I think before we are accused of being a council who isn't grateful for getting money off other people, and I was amiss not to mention it, it was on the previous item in relation to the first stage of the Cardinia Cultural Centre redevelopment. It should be noted that the Victorian State Government, through the Growing Suburbs Fund, did give us $3 million towards that project. So out of the $7.8 million, $3 million was given through the Growing Suburbs Fund. And so people can just equate to what that means. Every dollar that's given through another agency, whether it be state, federal, governments, is another dollar that ratepayers don't need to put in. And if they were having to put in, some of these projects would not be possible because we couldn't afford to do them. As an example with this, if you have a look at $3 million, that equates to probably between about 5 and 6% rate increase on your council rates. So this is extra rates we don't need to pay because other agencies give us the money. So we should be grateful for that, and we look forward to getting future grants coming through too. Anyway, is there any other speakers? If not, I will go back to the mover. Thank you, Councillor Owen.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, councillors, for your comments. I just encourage residents and community members to have a look at this report every month. It provides a great snapshot of activities undertaken by council. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Owen. We'll go to a vote. All those in favour? Declared carried. That concludes the discussion of the items withdrawn. Can I have a motion, please, to adopt the recommendations for the balance of the items listed? Thank you, Councillor Moore. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Ryan. All those in favour? Declared carried. Moving on to reports and minutes of committees. I note several reports from various committees have been tabled in addition to the minutes of the recent council briefing sessions, and these are available if any councillors wish to view them. Are there any councillors who would like to speak to those reports or minutes? If not, we will move on to councillor reports. Do I have any councillors who would like to report on any matters? Councillor Ryan. Thank you, Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of reports. Short week, a short month this month. I went to U3A AGM meeting, and Councillor Schilling was there as well, and we had a lovely time. I was invited to have a 5-minute talk, so they got to know me as a councillor. Little things that they didn't know before, they know now. And I think that's really helpful, that our community gets to know us as not only councillors, but we're human too. And we do some funny things over the years as we're growing up. So they learnt that I did live in the country, so I do know a little bit about country life. So I lived out there for quite a few years, so it was nice to come back to a little bit of township, but when I came to Pakenham, as I said to them, I came in 1979, so there were only paddocks and a few shops and a couple of schools, so there wasn't much happening when I first came here. I went to I was involved in the National Ride to School week with Pakenham Hills Primary School. That was a lot of fun. Pretty steep hill coming up Army Road, so I struggled a little bit because the kids just took off, very enthusiastic, but I think it's a great project. It gets the families out, and parents and children are just getting, whether they walk, skate, ride, or just simply someone else pushes them in a pram. It's just a great function. And to touch on a bit of Yakaboo, yes, Yakaboo's this weekend, so I hope we have quite a few people come to Yakaboo. It's been running for many, many years, and it's growing more and more, and along that line, we do have, within the arts, we do have a talent quest that's on that day, and someone dobbed me in to be one of the judges, so so that will be really interesting. So I hope you can all come along and support Cardinia Shire's Yakaboo, because it really is a great function, and it just means it's a family day for everyone, depending on what sort of family you'll have. Even bring your animals along. I'm sure they're part of our family as well. So that's all I've got to report, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. Do I have any other reports? Councillor Jeff Springfield. Thank you, Councillor Springfield.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to talk briefly about a fantastic week we've had in Emerald over the last week. So last Sunday we had the Fun Fest, which kicks off the annual PAVE Festival. And this is the 13th year the PAVE Festival has been running. And it's a community-led, community-run sort of event, and they did a fantastic job of it. So, yeah, I saw you there. You were having a good time?
I did. The organisers were showing me around. Thank you.
So, yeah, congratulations to the communities that put that together, because they did a successful, fantastic job. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Springfield. I must say they absolutely do an amazing job. And when they share with you how much work goes into it and how many volunteers put their time in and effort, you soon realise that a lot of people do a whole lot of work in that area. No, very true, Councillor Springfield. I had Councillor Schilling, you had your hand up, didn't you? Yeah, Councillor Schilling, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I have one report to share with Council. For people that know me will know that health and community health is something that I like to work towards, particularly looking at the social determinants of health and how we keep Cardinia healthy. So I'd just like to report that on the 3rd of October last year, I made contact with Associate Professor from Deakin, Samantha Thomas, who's a public health sociologist and qualitative expert at Deakin. Her research subject area is around commercial determinants of gambling harm. And the reason why I contacted her last year was, we'll make no mistakes of it, as a Shire, we have come up against a lot of applications around gaming. I contacted her though to get a better insight into the link between children and gaming advertising. On the 28th of February, we managed to get a meeting with Professor Thomas, Associate Professor Thomas. So Councillor Wilmot and I attended that meeting at Deakin in Burwood, where we discussed an upcoming research study which looked into the link between gaming advertising, brand recognition, particularly around gambling apps, and children's organised sports. A bit of a mouthful, this study. I'd like to thank Samantha, who has actually offered to come and expand her study into the Cardinia Shire. There were some municipalities which were taking place that were in it, and at no extra cost, she's offered to come out here and get some data for us. So I'd like to thank the council staff who have helped facilitate Samantha and her team to spend some time at Cardinia Life to gain this data. And one of my biggest beliefs on council is, I guess, the best community outcomes should be driven around the best available evidence which is available to us. And quite often we do get data which is state-based or it's nationally based, but to have localised data which is up to date can really help council drive future policy and even potentially change some practices as we do head into uncharted territory, as we see technological advancements across the world. I believe that gambling and advertising and children are connected closer than ever. So I look forward to seeing the outcome of this study. And once again, I would like to thank Associate Professor Samantha Thomas. She is doing this literally out of the goodness of her own heart to help us out as a Shire. And she's even given our officers the opportunity to put some questions into her study. So if there is a subject area that our council officers do want to gain a little bit more research and information on, she's more than happy to include that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Schilling. Do I have Councillor Moore and then Councillor Wilmot? Thank you, Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I'd just like to reinforce the comments made by Councillor Ryan about the Yakaboo Festival. I wasn't going to mention it at all tonight, but there are the fireworks on Saturday night too, by the way, so that's a fantastic thing in Burke Park, so you've got to come along to be that. But really what I wanted to do is to thank council staff, the CEO and the staff here for their support of this Yakaboo Festival. They get behind it, and not only just do they get funding through the festivals and grants program, there is additional things that they do on the side, like bringing water to the toilets. There's things that they do that go unnoticed, and no comments are ever made about that, but I just wanted to say thank you for supporting it in those other manners, because I want to particularly Ben, could I just to the staff down, particularly the depot, who are very supportive when it comes down to getting this festival on the ground, because it takes a lot to get it on the ground. And there's the festival, as we know, brings something for everybody. There's always something at the Yakaboo Festival for everybody, so it's going to be great. So get dressed in green. You're actually the right colour for Mr. Yakaboo, Mr. Mayor, dressed in green. So I'll be in green. I've got a green tutu that I've said that I'd wear on the day. We got a $500 funding for me to wear that, so that's going to be. I hope it's warm. I just hope it's a warm day. That's all I'm hoping for. But is it? The CEO knows what the temperature is going to be straight away. And I also went to the Garfield Primary School to do the walk to school, ride to school, scoot to school. I quite often get there and get all the Collingwood supporters together and try to walk with all the Collingwood supporters. Well, guess what? The Tiger Cub program that the Richmond Football Club have got into our council, into our Shire, has converted all those Collingwood supporters into Tiger supporters. I walked on my own with a black and white scarf. So, and they all had Richmond beanies and everything else and whatever. So, you know what? The program's working, and I congratulate the Richmond Club for what they're doing here, because that's why their membership's over 90,000. You can understand why. They've converted everybody, so it's just shows you winning a premiership makes a really big difference, doesn't it? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. You're not suggesting I should be riding Mr. Yakaboo, are you? Should be very interesting. And you talking about wearing a tutu, you weren't the man from Emerald that used to advertise a nursery for Emerald, were you, in the tutu? No, don't answer that. You might incriminate yourself. Anyway, do I have any other councillors who would like to report? Councillor Wilmot. Thank you, Councillor Wilmot.
Thank you. I just wanted to mention that we've had in the last few weeks Harmony Day celebrated in March 21st. There was a number of councillors present for the event, and it was a great event. We changed venues this year to accommodate for the increase in attendance, and we seem to have a lot more acts, I think, this year too than what we've had previously. But everybody had a great time. There's some great dancing, and I'd like to thank Councillor Schilling and the Mayor for their contribution to that. They did a great job being pulled up unexpectedly. They did do a good job, and good on you for being part of it. But it was a really good day. Councillor Brett Owen was there in his capacity as a police officer and helped serve some fantastic food to everybody for lunch. So we thank him for his contribution. I'd also just like to thank the two members of our Cold Advisory Committee who emceed the event. They did a great job. And two members of our Youth Council that did speeches on the day about it being included. So it was a really good day. I think the new venue worked well. There's a few little things that might get tightened up for next year, but it was a great day. And I think particularly Glenda George, our staff person that works with the cold communities, she puts this event on each year, and I know how much work she puts into it. She's got a real passion to make sure it's the best possible event we can do. So I thank everybody who was involved and attended on the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wilmot. I must say it was a shock when Councillor Schilling and myself had to don feather boas and dance around the stage in pink feather boas. It came as a real shock. But anyway, we embraced the opportunity and we shocked ourselves and shocked others. Anyway, we had a good time and I think the people enjoyed it too. Do I have any other speakers? Councillor Brett Owen. Thank you, Councillor Owen.
Thank you, Mayor. Just following up from Councillor Springfield's comments about the Fun Fest, I attended during the day on Sunday the 8th the 4th, and what an amazing day weather-wise that was, and I've never seen Emerald so full of people. It was huge. Great entertainment, great acts, great artists, and also some fantastic food. Some beautiful food, so I congratulate the committee as well. Also on that same day, earlier on in the day, we had the Kirth-Kiln Heritage Festival, and they're an amazing group of volunteers, the Friends of Kirth-Kiln. It's a great asset that we have in our Shire on our northern boundary north of Gembrook, and I encourage people to visit Kirth-Kiln. It's a great historic park and some great volunteers, so thank you. I had the pleasure of opening that, so that was very nice. I just want to acknowledge some community members. Last Monday, the Officer Recreation Reserve had their AGM, and we had a long-serving Secretary and Treasurer, Faye McCoubrey, stand down after 20 years in those executive roles, and she has been on the committee since 1970. And she has agreed to stay on the committee for a little bit longer to help mentor some people. But for someone who's been on a committee, a recreation reserve, since 1970 is just amazing. So well done, Faye, and thank you, Faye, for continuing to be on that committee as a mentor, sort of passing the baton. Also acknowledge Sally Randall, who was the president of the Upper Beaconsfield Community Centre for many, many years. And there was concern that there may not be someone, because Sally was retiring after many years, and she was forced to go again last year, but she couldn't do another year as president. So council, thank to the community strengthening team who attended the AGM a few Mondays ago, and a new president, Adrian Hall, and vice president, Simone Hackett, was elected. So it was a great result seeing a new committee, but I want to thank Sally Randall for her amazing contribution as president. I think she's still on the committee, which is great. Over the last 10 days, 2 weeks, we've seen the current Victorian Commission for Gambling and Liquor Regulation application for the 1 Station Street officer be heard. That is a pending application, but I had the opportunity to attend 2 days of that hearing. It finished today. It was scheduled for a 2-day hearing, but it's gone over 4 days. Obviously, an outcome is pending, but I just want to thank the Officer Community Association who attended there in force, 2 officer people One being Michael Petrovich, representing the Office of Community Association, spoke, and also a resident, Andrew McNabb, also spoke. They were first up during the hearing, and I thank council staff and also council's council, Maddox. When I was there, I thought they were doing an amazing job, but that is a pending decision. It is for the application for 80 pokie machines, electronic gaming machines. So a decision is pending very soon. In the next couple of weeks, I understand, a decision will be made in relation to that. In relation to Anzac Day is coming, and I encourage residents and community members to attend an Anzac Day service. We've got many across our Shire, some leading up to Anzac Day. I know Beaconsfield's this coming Sunday, Sunday the 22nd, but we also have, obviously on Anzac Day, many services, both dawn and also morning services. So I encourage residents to attend a service as we remember 100 years since the ending of World War I. Also acknowledge all the young children, young students involved in Mobile March, which was a council-run sort of initiative program to encourage young people and their families and parents to get mobile in March. Instead of driving to school and parking, trying to get a park outside your school, actually parking some distance at a drop zone or even walking from home. And as previously said from other councillors, there was a number of events, but I know the school that I've been attached to, a primary school, that school heavily promoted Mobile March. It's about getting out, getting active, and I understand a number of prizes will be awarded to the most amount of students for a school participating. So I look forward to hearing those results. But well done to the schools and young people for getting mobile in March, because we do have issues around our schools. Parking is bedlam, and we need to improve that situation by walking a bit further, getting a bit more exercise and ease the congestion around our schools. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Owen. Do I have any other councillors who would like to report? If not, we will move on to presentation of petitions. Do we have any petitions that councillors would like to table? If not, we will move on to notices of motion. And I believe there are no notices of motion to consider this evening. So therefore we will move on to community question time. We've also received a series of questions from Gloria O'Connor. I can see Mrs O'Connor in the gallery. If you'd like to come to the front table, please, Gloria, and so that your comments can be recorded and the microphone's already turned on. And I will refer the first question to the Acting General Manager for Assets and Management and Services, Mr Ben Wood. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you, Mayor. So the question reads, when is it intended to carry out some necessary maintenance work on the historical council building on the corner of Main Street and Princess Highway, Pakenham, which is now occupied by the Berwick Pakenham Historical Society and contains valuable historical records and museum items for public viewing? The exterior of the building is in need of attention in order to continue to preserve its condition and appearance for the future. We'll arrange for the property to be inspected and ascertain what works are required.
Your microphone on, Gloria. Thank you.
I was told by the president of this historic society that there had been some attention paid to examining or looking at the parts that are beginning to show wear and tear, but nothing had been followed up. So if you do go out and examine it, then make sure that it goes forward. It's a very precious building, and if the more you let it deteriorate, then the harder it's going to be to keep it in good order.
So I'm aware that there are some works planned on some of those buildings in that area, but not for the one that I think you were specifically talking about. So we'll have a look at it.
Okay, will you let us know when you've done that?
Yeah, we can do that. Thanks.
Thank you.
I refer the next question to Mr Derek Madden, the General Manager for Corporate Services. Thank you, Mr Madden.
Thank you, Gloria. The question reads as follows, that the council budget mentions community consultation being available. Is there information regarding the location and time of these important opportunities? So yes, in the document where we actually had where the budget was presented, we said that during the consultation period there would be public information sessions to present the budget and then also to take some questions. At this stage, we've confirmed 3 locations. They are Cooeyrup, Gembrook and Pakenham, and the details for those sessions are, I just want to confirm it here.
Did you have any more to add, Mr. Madden, or that was...
No, just giving the
No
dates
worries.
here, sorry. So it will be Monday the 23rd of April, and then Tuesday that will be the Cooeyrup meeting at 1 p.m. These will be all advertised after today. We only confirmed all of the bookings for the locations today, and then on Tuesday the 22nd there will be 2 meetings, one in Gembrook and one in the Pakenham Library. In addition to that, a full presentation will be available online. So the presentation that's given on those days will be available online because we realise not everybody will be able to attend. So that presentation will be available from Tuesday the 22nd online as well, which will give the public copies of what was presented at those sessions.
So are you saying it's going to be, where will the community or people in the community learn about the sessions? Is it going to be in the paper or?
It's going to be through numerous channels. It's going to be through our online channels, but it's also, we're dealing with our communications department now at the moment and dealing with some local community groups too as well regarding getting the message out there. So there'll be a number of channels. It won't be just one channel.
That's good, thank you.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Sorry. I'll refer the last question to Mr. Andrew Paxton, General Manager of Planning and Development. Thank you, Mr. Paxton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The third question reads, the Victorian Planning Authority acknowledged 53 submissions received concerning the Pakenham East Precinct Structure Plan and has now advised a panel hearing commencing the 28th of May for 8 days in Melbourne. Is it possible for Council to request the hearing take place in Cardinia Shire to allow appropriate community for residents and ratepayers to attend the hearing? The inevitable traffic congestion, travel cost and time is likely to prevent many interested residents who are entitled to attend. A directions hearing is to be held on Monday the 30th of April in Melbourne, at which the hearing venue and timetable will be considered. Gloria, Council has already requested the Victorian Planning Authority and Panels Victoria for the panel hearing to be held in Cardinia to improve accessibility for our community. To date, we've not had a response to this request. Council will also raise this request again at the directions hearing when it's in the city.
Oh, great, that's very good news. That's good to hear, yeah.
I can't guarantee the outcomes.
What do you think your chances are going to be?
Slim to marginal.
That's what I was worried about.
We're trying.
But we'll ask. We may get one of the days out here for community submissions. But ideally we'd have the lot, but I doubt we'll get that.
So even if there were half of them or 2 or 3 of the days, it appears to be a week they're planning to hold the time they expect to.
I think it's set down for 8 days at this stage.
8 days, yeah. So do you reckon, what you're saying, maybe 1 day out of that 8?
I would be using my crystal ball and it's not working too well at this point.
So
we've put the request in and our request is to have as much of it out here as possible. So we'll ask that again at the directions hearing.
are you going to the directions hearing? Who goes to the direction hearing from here?
Our planning team who have been working on the application will be there, and our lawyers that are representing council will also be there and representing council.
That's very good. I don't really want to go in to the directions hearing, but I wasn't sure whether you go in and that you make a verbal request when you're there.
You should. I think we received a letter today asking or advising us of the date and time for the directions hearing. I think everyone who's made a submission should get that. And in that, you can also request whether you wish to be heard at the directions hearing.
Yeah, I noticed that
Yeah.
too.
So that I suppose people will choose to want to be heard at the panel in the directions hearing.
Do they take, like, the reason I'm asking you this is because I expect that the community can't ask. It has to be done formally at the directions hearing, that the people representing the council.
The community, and I'd say the community would have a very strong voice, because you can actually be more, council has to play within the rules of the game and has to abide by a degree of etiquette, where I think the community in panels, I would say, is given a lot more latitude. And I think that would be a fair comment. I think Councillor Owen at panels and VCAT, when the community at the VCAT directions hearing for 1 Station Street was given a lot more latitude than council officers and our legal team was.
That's even better to hear. So that means if people manage to go in there for the directions hearing, they can have a time to ask or put in their bid to have.
So each chair can be different, but the chairs that I've experienced so far tend to give the community a lot more latitude in how they express their views.
Okay, well, we'll see what we can do then, won't we? Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Ms O'Connor.
Pardon?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
No worries, that's all right. We will move on now to councillor question time. I believe we have one question from Councillor Brett Owen. And this question will be, I'll direct over to our CEO. Thank you, Mr. Gary McQuillan.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Before I respond to the question, I just want to preface my comments by saying that under the current planning scheme in the Green Wedge Zone, a motorsport is prohibited, and therefore you need a planning scheme amendment to have land rezoned to allow a motorsports facility as a permissible use. Having said that, we have been working with the Minister's Office and the Department to seek a planning scheme amendment to allow the Pakenham Auto Club and the Cooyaruppan District Motorcycle Club to establish a suitable site in Cardinia. As I said, those discussions have been held and continue to be held to try and get a planning scheme amendment to zone land for public park and recreation. Having said that, the Pakenham Auto Club and the Cooyaruppan District Motorcycle Club currently operate out under the power lines at McGregor Road, 335 McGregor Road, providing that they comply with the conditions of their licence they will be able to continue to operate under the power lines into the future.
Thank you, Mr McQuillan. Councillor Owen, do you have a supplementary question?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I might just read out the question so residents and councillors are aware of what the CEO was talking about. So the question is, can the CEO update council on the status of council finally obtaining long-awaited permanent accommodation for our 2 local motorsports clubs, the Pakenham Auto Club and the Cooyaruppan Motorsports Club? So I thank the CEO for his response, but I'm frustrated. I know the community is frustrated. Our 2 local clubs, the Pakenham Auto Club, the Cooyaruppan Motorcycle Club is frustrated. They have been waiting for a permanent home for over 20 years and we're still in this space where there is no permanent home. I appreciate they've got temporary accommodation, but they want a permanent home so they can build permanent structures for their club that accommodates for hundreds and hundreds of people, mainly young people. And at the moment, we're still got no permanent home. So I urge this council And I appreciate there's a lot of councillors around the table supportive of me with my frustration. Over 20 years we've been waiting for this, and already we've got land suitably zoned for such recreation. So council needs to find a permanent home. So I just wanted to state that, and we need to continue to get this final permanent home for our 2 local clubs. They've been going for many, many years, probably over 50 years. So take that on notice, councillors and council officers. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Owen. That concludes tonight's proceedings. Thank you for your attendance and for our audience over the internet, and I hope you found the proceedings interesting this evening, and I declare the meeting closed. Thank you.